like reading history, like remembering all the names and who did what. That's my biggest struggle with history. But I was telling Bethany that there was something in the beginning of the chapter that resonated with me. This because I read this morning. My lovely grandmother, who would have been 100 this year, she died last year, used to tell me a lot when I was growing up. You learn more by shutting your mouth. And when I saw them write that in the book, I said, I've never ever seen anyone or heard that anywhere else except from my grandmother. And I was like, it's very true though. You learn more by listening than you do by talking. And that was something.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's very true. And when you're interrogating,
that's a really good thing for us to remember to apply in business,
right?
Especially for those of us that are on the sales end of it, because we tend to be the talkers. But you learn so much about what your client wants and needs are. You just let them talk and you listen and pay attention. It's massive, but it's massive everywhere.
Right.
I like the tie-in on this one with the masterminds. Like, the revolution, like, there were people all over the colonies who were dissatisfied, but it took 3 people getting together and creating a connection point with all these other colonies, like that communication line. Like, the revolution couldn't have happened if those 3 people didn't stand up and make it happen. Like, I thought that was pretty amazing.
Mastermind breakfasts.
Yes,
Because
very much.
has the mastermind things.
Yeah, I bet that's where this came from.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it did. Yeah, getting all the high-end business people together to figure out how to better their businesses. So.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's literally where the title "Mastermind" for all these get-togethers comes from. Is this book? But then, like the Revolutionary War example, it demonstrates that they literally couldn't let their decisions outside their mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
for sure.
if they would have let the decision to start a revolution outside of that group, they would have died. They would have been killed, right? So he says really plainly that you have to make sure that your mastermind is your group that you lean in on with your decisions. So when you've decided, you lean on them, but you don't share with other people. And I think that's a big deal to remember.
Mm-hmm. Got anything, Robbie?
I just kind of like the whole thing about like being scared to make a decision because you're scared of the repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I talked to Mark about it the other day at our one-on-one about like, yeah, it's easy to look back and regret decisions that you made and stuff like that, but then, you know, when you were brave enough to actually pull the trigger on a decision because you were scared of the unknown and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's like I said to him, if he hadn't approached me at the water cooler one day just to have a chat, I never would have asked him for a job.
Yeah.
Then I would never, the conversation would have never happened.
And look at you now.
Look at me now.
Head of your own department.
Running that. Ish. That was close. It's very close.
The other thing that was something that stood out was how the percentage of, I think it was like 98% of people that go to college don't have a clear direction, and thinking more of the generation today.
Well, I will say college today is a lot different than when I went.
Right.
If you don't know your degree, when you go in, you will not graduate in 4 years. Your program, like my daughter graduated a couple years ago, she went in, she wanted to be a teacher, she thought, but she was also leaning toward history. And they're like, well, basically you are going to waste a year taking classes trying to figure it out.
Right.
And you were going to have to pay for next
Really?
year.
Normally you can take the gen ed courses the first year.
After that. The way her college was, and she wasn't the only one in her friend group that had this happen, it was literally like, you want to be a teacher, these are your classes for the next 4 years. This is the semester you take it, this is when you take this is when you take that.
A few of them overlap, but yeah, it's going to be a long time.
And if they didn't do that, it was going to be at least an extra year of school just to get their bachelor's.
Right.
Which I'm kind of 50-50. I like the idea of going into school and figuring out what you like, but I also like not wasting money on BS classes and just getting the degree you want.
Right.
But the problem is applying that degree when you get out in a lot of cases too.
Right.
It's not as easy as we all would hope it would be.
It's true.
I went in for graphic design, switched to nursing, ended up in marketing, and now I'm here.
In real estate.
I was a bio.
I did start here in marketing though, so I mean, there's that.
Better than most of us. I was a bio major.
But it took me a long. It took me, I think it was 6 or 7 years of college. But I did get 4 associates and then my bachelor's. So
There you
there's
go.
that.
Went to college for theater, ended up being a full-time musician, waited tables, landed in real estate.
I feel like everybody